Okay, so welcome. Let's see if this works. Yay, it does. Yeah, I'm Sulka. My background is I've been working on software projects for, I guess, close to 25 years, about 17 of them in games. Started originally doing multimedia CD-ROMs and websites. Then a couple of friends of mine, they started a company called Sulka, where I joined and worked on Hub Hotel, which is this teenager community game-ish thing for about 10 years. And during that time I was the lead designer for Disney's Virtual Magic Kingdom, so I did a lot of very deep social online things there. Then founded a company called Makey Lab in London where we did games and 3D printed toys, but the 3D printing was not quite there yet for consumer products. So I moved back here and joined Next Games, where I'm currently working on as a lead designer for the title I'm talking about. But before I started working on our world, I was the executive producer for a game called The Walking Dead: No Man's Land, and which is a like tactical, like turn-based zombie, like killing game where there's a adventure elements, PvP, you name it. Like we've done a lot of things like with the mission types that we have. And this being based on The Walking Dead, so the TV series is still massively popular. So The Walking Dead it's been the #1 TV show in the States for a very, very long time. And when it comes on online or on TV, there's still millions and millions of viewers watching the episodes as they air at all times. Which is a great starting point for actually making a game, because a TV series that has proven out to be popular kind of gives you a solid base of like there's a fan base. It's a very well-known fantasy to start building games on top of. And AMC was happy about the game we had done before, and like we were happy about the AMC cooperation. And given the show was continuing to be popular, we kind of figured, okay, like let's maybe do another game together. So we did. But like the starting point for the next game was kind of like what would be the good mechanics, because we obviously wanted to do something different from what we had done with the first game. And location-based elements were like, where Pokemon was starting like to come big, or like had just launched roughly the time that we were talking about this, and we kind of figured that like the zombies having taken over the world, the location mechanics could actually be a really good fit in terms of the story and like what the elements could be. So we started looking into like what are the location-based games in the market, so like looking at the bigger location games that have gotten a lot of players, Nokia did this game with Rovio quite a while ago called the Ovi Maps Challenge, when they were like launching, like they started really having mobile phones with GPS in it, like features that you could actually use to do location-based games in a way where consumers could actually really perceive that there is location-based elements there. There's a Helsinki-based studio called Grey Area that I'm not sure if it exists anymore. That did a game called Shadow Cities that originally launched when iPhone 3G was out, and it was one of the first like really visually rich location-based games that actually like showed a map of where you were, and there was like really brutal PvP that happened on the screen. Like so when you logged in, probably if you were a noob, one of the experienced players probably ganked you immediately, because they were high power players and they just like could dominate each one of the areas. But like the really sparked the imagination of people into location-based gaming. Niantic launched Ingress a few years later. Clearly, like the games were actually quite similar at launch. So like did look like they'd be inspired by Shadow Cities. And obviously, like a few years later, they launched Pokemon Go. And which is obviously, as we know, like massively huge hit. And I think one of the big reasons why Pokemon did end up being so successful is simply that the gameplay in Pokemon and the fantasy of the TV series, or like the series, the animation, like all the comics, it's a really good fit. So people who knew Pokemon kind of expected, like, okay, like I'm gonna walk around, find Pokemon, like catch them into balls, and like maybe do some fighting, and that's exactly what it is. But how would you go about replicating the success level of Pokemon in a game? And there was this kind of like running joke that went into game developer circles back, like when then like people started to talk about how to replicate this, and it's kind of like you can't take the mechanics of Pokemon and put them on another game and be successful about it, even if you wanted to, because there's no other IP with the breadth of collectibles and the fantasy that like really fits the way you do. So if you do want to make a location-based game, you just can't take one of the existing games that had been made before, replicate it, and be successful. You actually do need to innovate and come up with something new. Also, looking at the games that have been successful on the location genre, location as such is actually not a genre. So there's location elements. It comes with the baggage of people expecting certain types of gameplay and the location to be meaningful, but there's no like established paradigm that actually you would need to put into your game and it be magically perceived as a good location-based game. So when we started figuring out what would we like to have in terms of mechanics, the kind of starting points were like we wanted to make really strong social features so that you would actually really be able to play together. We wanted to solve the issue of like you being able to play everywhere. So if you did play Pokemon back in the day, like I had really frustrating experience myself. So I played in the city, I was very happy, then went to the summer cottage and could find nothing. So I effectively churned from the game from just not being able to play everywhere. Other thing we wanted to support is more couch play. So location has to be meaningful in a location-based game, but it's really frustrating that you can't play at all unless you move. So we wanted to come up with mechanics that actually would allow the people to progress meaningfully even without moving on every single play session. And last but not least, obviously, like it had to feel like a Walking Dead game. So the starting point again here was the way the Next Games works is when we start creating a new game, we try to think of what the viewer fantasy of the IP is. When you go watch a movie or a TV series, if you're the viewer, what's the fantasy in your head that if you were in this world, what would you do and what would you find aspirational? So we had a lot of these discussions. The art team started to work on different types of concepts as to like how would we depict the brand in the new game, because we had done this once before, but they still wanted to explore exactly like what would it mean to like reinterpret the brand into the new game. So and gameplay-wise, we actually created 4 different prototypes that all offered quite vastly different gameplay to make sure that we really knew what's going on. And here's a couple of pictures. So these are. We looked into the maps, and actually, like one of the discoveries was that the people were asking, or like the internal game testers were asking, that they would like to see a map view of the world that allowed them to plan strategically, which is a good request, but it actually created this disconnect from where you were. So people didn't find immersed in the game at all. They were just like looking at this map-based gaming, and the location kind of lost its meaning completely. So some of these, like we had, actually we tried to turn traveling salesman problem into one of the game mechanics where you'd actually like go through locations and travel on the map. Didn't quite work. We also looked into like various ways of doing the sec-to-sec, so like what the missions would be, and how do you look into the world. So and as part of that, we like also started looking into what's the geography of the world, and discovered like one of the pictures here is from Kansas that has this massive grid square fields in the world where the actual accessible areas in the world for the players is tiny compared to like many of the other areas if you live in the bigger cities where there's like a lot of data available. And obviously, like we were developing part of this during the winter, so they're really well this dynamic. So you really do need to give people the capability of playing the game even in kind of harsh conditions. So what did we come up with? The missions in the game are like, if you played, very simple first-person view shooters. And one of the reasons we went with this and like made it really simple is if somebody's on the move, they typically have maybe like 10 to 15 seconds for one interaction, or you're going to be starting to actually make it hard to play the game. So if you're walking with your buddies to lunch, you can't stop and play the game for a long time, or you're going to be like, the game is going to break your patterns. Or if you're commuting somewhere, like you really don't want to stop. You just want to like do a small, short interaction that progresses you meaningfully, and you can't stop for any longer than that. The other is what happened during the development is Apple launched AR Core, like AR Kit, and Google launched AR Core. And we figured that we really do actually need to support this, because like the location of like being able to view the world in AR, location-based, makes perfect sense, but these technologies didn't actually exist back when we started developing. And we wanted to create a gameplay system that would allow us to run the exact same missions, both in AR and in the VR mode, where you don't move. So if you play the game, it's the exact same mission layouts and like the exact same gameplay, which made the development a lot easier when you could actually just use the same content across the board. And we have now the like only overhead view, because that was the one solution that actually provided immersion and like really made you feel that you're somewhere in the world. Being able to travel virtually and like actually like look at the overhead map just destroyed the immersion. We did want to have collectibles, so we did. So the same as in the previous game, like the heroes from the TV series are collectibles. Whenever you go to the missions, you actually get the cards. So we used the Royale style gacha of like you're getting like more of the same that allows you to merge the cards together and get more powerful heroes and find more things. But we did also like make the weapons that you use in the game collectibles, and there's perks that you can use collect as cards, and again like get more powerful in the game as a part of collecting them. For social, the previous location-based games hadn't really made it obvious that you're playing in the world with other players, and our solution to this was allowing players to build houses on the map. So whenever you play the game, you will see other player having placed things on the map. You can tap on the map like a building, you actually see the leaderboard of who's been interacting with. You can tap on the names of the people to get their profiles and like see which guilds they are, so if you want to join a guild. So they kind of like the social aspects of like you knowing that other players are in the game is right built into the map view, and it's impossible to escape the other players that are playing the game in your neighborhood. We made this cooperative, one of the big reasons being that competitive elements on the game actually are, or in location-based, are kind of dangerous, because if you have rival goods, as in like I collect something from the map and it's away from the other players, it makes punching people in the face a dominant strategy, because you would probably then want to play the game alone somewhere where you're the only player to collect stuff, and if you that would imply that like people actually would need to like want to be competitive like in the physical world, and you don't want that in the location-based game. And to make this more interesting, the social solution that we put in is almost all the players who are playing the game join a group, and the groups have this bingo board style task list where each one of the players contributes to the guild's board, or either one of the players needs to play through the missions alone, or you need to work together to find different mission types and play those missions in a very specific manner to progress through the board and collect the best rewards. And this is tiered, so you can like, if you play well enough and you complete the boards for a tier, the next week actually you bump up into a more difficult board that gives you better rewards. So the kind of the smart depth of the mission types you play and the missions, how you engage with the missions, actually comes not from the sec to sec itself that you do in the missions in the map, because they needed to be very short not to distract the people from being able to play the game whenever, but how you engage with the missions through the meta in the social level. The other thing that people were asking for the longest time is discovery. So with location-based mechanics, people want to feel lucky whenever they open the game and like find a spawn somewhere that they think that they were especially lucky or they were clever on knowing where to go to play the game. So most of the mission types are statically placed, so you actually find the same mission types like in the same place every single day. But we also have this rare mission types that you have to be lucky to find. So if you like the blue glowing thing is a rare mission that gives you guaranteed better drops. And you can share these to other players in the game. So you can drop in a flare, and the other people in your guild can teleport to that location and play all the content in that neighborhood as if they were there. So if you find something that is especially cool, you share it to the guild, which again supports the couch play, or you being able to play the game more and feel this reciprocity of like social life sharing and being able to play better with your guildmates. So it's great for that. And that's pretty much it. So the takeaway for me for this project is that we were kind of like scared to innovate a lot, but we did, and I'm happy to do that. But do remember to reserve enough time. And the other thing that we actually did continue to work on iterating the designs until more or less the entire team was playing the game every day and like was really hooked. And that seems to be kind of the key of like now it's good enough to actually ship to the other players. Like now that we're playing the game, our own game on a daily basis and really loving it. So that's it. Thank you. I guess we have a couple of minutes for questions.
Yes, we do. We can answer questions. Well, you can answer questions. I'm not going to answer anything. But I love Finland. Like, people are super kind, but they never ask anything. Like, everybody looks at me kind of, yay, go Sabrina.
Solidarity, yeah? It's an amazing game. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm very curious. Is there anything you would do different, something you learn, and that you would do different if you had to do this game again?
We have a very long list of features that are coming up. So the next release, I guess we already have told the players that there's going to be PvP, which uses the exact same collection. So like currently you can also find these raider fights of humans on the map. And we're effectively taking that same gameplay mode and allowing people to fight each other. And this is actually implemented using couch play. So the rewards that you get from the PvP actually support you playing on the map. So usually games structure PvP in a way where like engaging with the PvP is kind of away from the other game modes if there's multiple. And we kind of wanted to turn this around where playing the PvP actually makes you more powerful, easier to engage with the other game modes. But yeah, I guess I can't talk about the other features, but there's plenty coming that we know the players will need.
Congratulations again. Question I've got is that, like with Pokemon Go, for instance, there was you saw real retailers actually get involved with the game by saying, okay, between these hours, Pokemon Go players can come here and they get special discounts and so forth. Are you looking to start engaging that sort of activity as well? Like, I don't know, a Starbucks, okay, come clear out the zombies here and then you get a free coffee.
So I have heard some coffee shops actually have already like put ads for the game out and like are engaging people. There are features coming up that will actually like enable more of that. So we don't currently have a equivalent of a lure in the game, but that's actually coming up probably in the next release. We were already we tried to release it, found a bug, couldn't put it out. But there is features coming up where like that type of mechanics of like the coffee shop having things on the map visible is definitely going to happen. So yeah, we are interested.
If guys don't... Oh,
yes.
Yes. Good. Just a second. I'm getting to you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Since the game is an AR-based game, have you tried any AR glasses like a Vuzix Blade or other such things?
We did toy with the idea, and I think there was a prototype, but the needing to move around and using it, like the currently available hardware doesn't really support location-based gaming that well. So I think they're amazing for like indoors AR, but even the tracking technologies typically don't work in sunlight. So I'm eagerly waiting for a upcoming hardware revision sometime in the future where we could do location-based gaming with AR glasses. Yeah. I think we might just have time for one more.
Yes.
I think he had a question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, trying to understand the scope. Like, how many employees did you have working on this project, and how long did it take? If you can elaborate on that.
The entire production took about 2 years. I think the current team is about 15 people. We obviously like Next we have our own backend technology that we're using for all the games. So there's only one backend team that supports the entire all the different game teams. But yeah, I think the current team is about 15. At peak we were a bit more. But that's if you took 15 for 2 years, you should be able to pull something like this off.